All right, team, let's get started. It is the last day. I know there's so few seats. Please try to pack it in. It's going to be difficult to find a place. We're all that last person picked on the NFL draft by being like Mr. Irrelevant the last day. I even have a 12 o'clock today, so it's going to be really a blast in that sense. But let's keep this light. Let's keep this as best interactive as one can do for a 20-minute talk. For starters, before you even get in anywhere, is anybody here a resident? A fellow? Excellent. Within their first 5 years of practice? 5 to 10 years? Yeah, excellent. All right, finally, I like it. It matches up to what I put up there. More than 10 years? Yeah, all right, good. Okay, so here's the thing. Even as for a fellow across the spectrum, this can still be useful, but please bear in mind I'm going to be targeting in a certain way. But with that all being said, let's begin. My name is Jeremy Branzetti, and I would like to talk to you about how coaching as a tool can help you navigate your career crossroads. As you go through my central thesis, as you go through your career, you're going to get to a point where no one's going to be able to be capable, knowledgeable, or insightful enough to tell you what to do anymore. And it's going to have to come from within you. And having help with doing that may be the difference between burning out, flaming out, quitting, etc., or continuing a longitudinal journey of a career that is joyous and fulfilling. So with that said, let's kick things off. I have, as every educator in the room, has no financial disclosures to bring, but lo and behold, I actually do have a real disclosure. I am a coach, as I can see with people in this room. I have my own little side business. I assure you, it does not pay my rent. It does not feed me. It does a side enjoyment of what I like to do, but the key of this is I want to talk to you about this entity that you may or may not know and help you understand how it may be a tool to help you. I don't want to sell myself or this is not about a business in any way. I swear, pinky promise, it's not about that. So with that being said, I want to be able to focus on this entity of coaching. Let's do the traditional, like what I put out there into the ether beforehand. So first, I want to talk about shortcomings of existing relationships that you may have. Better phrase, existing developmental interactions that you may have experienced. Then I want to talk about how the core tenets of coaching are actually uniquely suited to where many of you put your hands up to be as a mid-career professional. And then help you figure out what your empowerment plan is going to be. What will you do from this point to figure out the next step, whatever that step may be? I want to then pause before anything else and say, there's a tendency when somebody gets up and advocates for this new thing, and they really want to say this new thing is great, and they say that it's shiny and does everything, it's a panacea, it slices, it dices, it juliennes, it does all those things. But in reality, I don't want to do that about coaching. I want to highlight its benefit, but I want to say it is a tool among many tools that you have access to. So this is not a one weird trick talk. All you need to do is show up and be, I hired a coach, I'm set, and my life is better. It's actually a lot of work. It's a lot of input to put in, and to really figure out whether you're in the correct mindset to even approach that is probably one of the biggest first steps. So I don't want you to feel like it's just hire someone and push play and then I'm done. It is not that. So what is my plan? I want to talk about you, the mid-career professional. What makes you special and unique, and the experiences that both are out there that I can infer from, my own personal ones, and certainly knowing a number of people who are in this audience right now to talk about that. What is your current knowledge and repertoire of developmental interactions? And then focus in on the idea of a coach. What is that? How does that differentiate itself from other developmental interactions? And then when you take these together, you get this thesis that I have, which is for the mid-career professional, a coach is probably the optimal form of developmental interaction that you can pursue. Not all the time, it's not perfect, and again, it's not an easy button. But I want to genuinely plant this thought in your head to then say, I never thought of that. That may be what I really should be looking out for. So with that said, let's get in the first element, identity. Number of educators in the room, or people who have at least been around the medical profession, we carry a lot of identity with that. My fiance loves to point out that every time she introduces me as, he's an ER doctor, everybody's reaction is this what? It's a weird reverence of a layperson for us as doctors, and we all experience that just by being and that's our identity. And who's gonna lie? We all like that to some extent, right? That's not a negative, may not be why you pursued this, but it's a part of it. And if you look, a traditional conceptualization of this is this idea of professional identity formation. If you've seen this before, there's a number of authors that get into it, and it's generally the idea that you take the layperson, pre-med person, who will go through this socialization and experiential process and come out a doctor with all of the internal values and assumptions, etc. And these are generally predicated upon some internal and external factors. Your curriculum, your workplace environment, going into the surroundings, the social environment. I mean, there's no curriculum that will tell us that somebody who reports their renal function as creatinine and bun, right? Everybody cringes the moment they hear that. No one's ever put that in a curriculum, but we all know it because that is the environment that you socialize into. And that's just a tiny example of all of the things that come out of that. And internal factors, right? That pre-med person, their values matter, their ability and their traits, their personality, their passions. And my argument is to actually, let's look at these two things and say, what is the relative value? Because I think as you mature through your career, it shifts. So let's look at that. If we take the rosy-eyed pre-med, they are in college, they are now going to be trying to figure out, I think I want to be a doctor. And let's look at the relative influence of those factors. All right? As they go to become a competent physician, a nameless faceless just physician, not further differentiated, to then the mid-career professional, there will be these different influences. External role models, curricula, teachers, peers, mentors, praise, grades, huge things that really drive us a lot in this early time. And on the other end, values, passion, abilities, experiences that we've had, what motivates us, what gets us out of bed. I would make the argument that early on, it's fairly even split. That pre-med is in probably a life sciences experience where they have had teachers or experiences that have pushed them in a little bit in this direction. But at the same time, they had values that said, I want to be in a service industry. I want to help other people. They may have already had that experience that we all read in about 25% of our recruitment essays of some family member or some medical experience happened that then turned them on to medicine, right? We read that all the time. And that may be one of the things that's guiding them as well. But I think the unspoken and unrealized aspect about this is, once you start training, this splits. The relative influence of these external factors, your peers, your attendings, your seniors, the curriculum that you're in, the grades, the praise, etc., they all really went out versus, I'll go back to that, versus the internal factors. When you go on your surgery rotation, my value of wanting to help the patient can help me spend more time with the patient, but it's not changing the rotation. But boy, that rotation can change you with the way that you view patients. It really is an externalizing, a force from the external side that changes you to become a physician. You adapt these values that come from the world around us, sacrifice and knowledge, showing confidence, being able to be a high performer, being right. There's a lot of these things that come together that will really dominate a lot of the training phase. But once you become the physician, right? When traditional professional identity ends, I have become the physician. Now what? Those grades are gone. The curriculum is gone. The praise probably isn't as there. I mean, we all like praise, but it's not around you. There's not as many teachers. Your mentorship, especially as you go through your career, who's in front of you to do what I'm doing right now and the unique experiences, things that I've had? So that starts to decline. It's not zero, but it's far less influential. And now you're left kind of adrift. And you start realizing, oh, wait a minute, it's what I care about. What is it that gets me out of bed in the morning? Right? You've done clinical medicine, many of you for now more than 10 years. It doesn't surprise you as much anymore. It doesn't have that same, wow, I've never seen that before. It does happen, but it's not every shift. And so what is it that really lights your fire? And what is it that gets you going? You start picking things and you differentiate. You develop a niche. You find an area that you like to work on or a thing that you like to do and you develop that. So this change to guiding inside of me is what's pushing me more than outside is exactly what makes you more unique in mid-career. And so how about that? When you're mid-career, you have a unique skill set, right? You're not just a nameless, faceless, undifferentiated physician who just graduated. You have expertise. You have probably been through some stuff. You've seen failure, you've seen some setback. There may not be a content expert ahead of you to tell you this is the right answer anymore. Like that binary state, right and wrong, do this, becomes really hard the further you go along because you realize you're the only one on this path now as you have separated from the nameless, faceless physician crowd. External incentives still matter, but you're probably more financially secure. You're probably in a state where $10,000 or $20,000 of my salary isn't what makes me change a job. And in fact, I'd be willing to bet, my chair posed this great question, how much less would I take per year if I never had to work nights again? And we would all put a number on that, right? That number, like you're not dying for money if you're willing to make that choice. The point being less externally driven and now it's about what makes me happy internally, because that's what you're left with every day. And I would even go so far to say, if I'm unhappy with my job for whatever reason, and it's really a fraught conversation to go to my vice chair or my chair to say, hey, I'm not happy, right? Right? That's right here, Fiona, right here. Trust me, right? And in fact, I've had that conversation before where I've said, I'm looking at another job and I was accused of disloyalty, right? And that's an opinion, that's fair, that someone can have that opinion, but the whole point is I don't want to talk about my existential crisis that I'm experiencing with my boss at this point. So you're in this position where you have these things that you want to express, but my traditional structures may not be there to be able to do that. And this is what now brings us to the developmental interaction. What are the ways that we can interface with someone to help us? I want to use this term on purpose because I want to stop the overuse of using mentorship when it's really coaching or coaching when it's advising, etc. An interaction, bidirectional exchange, it's meant to have a change in behavior towards some outcome. The learner is responsible for making that change, and the developer is responsible for inducing that in some way. So you can think of many possible interactions like this. The most classic one, of course, is teaching, right? We've been through this for many years. The teacher's trying to induce a change in us. Advising, this is more germane typically in the learning phase, right? Like the clerkship director can tell you, here are the 3 things you need to do to get a high honors or whatever the grade would wind up being in this clerkship, right? There's a right answer, here's what it is, I have expertise, you need it. Mentoring is a more longitudinal and developmental. Mentoring can very much be a jack of all trades, and I want to acknowledge a good mentor is capable of doing all these things. So I want to just say it's not necessarily a box. But traditionally, a mentor will be speaking from a position of, when I was in your position, I would blah, blah, blah. Or, I think back, this is what I recommend for you. Because they're using their experience and tapping into it and making it a benefit to you. Whereas a coach is going to take an entirely different perspective. And I'm going to come to that in a little moment, but let's just use this little diagram here. This is an article I cite often from GGME, from Mark Dante and Simpson, and I want to just highlight a couple of points here if you can see it, and if not, I'll narrate this, so don't worry about squinting. But on this top, the focus, this top area. Oh, and before I go further, this idea of coaching with wisdom is more than 20 minutes can get into. It's basically combining a little bit of advising, a little bit of mentoring, but mostly coaching. Ignore that for now. That's best conceptualized mostly for learners. But advisor, coach, mentor. So I also want to edit, because I think this is better phrased as either problem or challenge that a coach will deal with. But the focus, an advisor has a specific thing to address. A coach is, you bring whatever that problem is, and it's your issue or challenge. And a mentor is this longitudinal career focus. So in the next one, what is the expertise? Both mentors and advisors are experts in the thing you care about. Coaches don't have to know squat about your area. And arguably it's even helpful that they don't, because they don't get trapped in the minutia of, this rotation or, this paper I have to do. Because in the coaching sense, it doesn't matter. But it's a very different experience. And in the control, again, it's top down from advisors and mentors, but really bottom up, or at least more equitable partnership in a coaching relationship. And then in a strategy sense, the flow of information is from an advisor to the advisee. It's from a mentor to the mentee. It is not that case from a coach. They are not dictating content or expertise to you. And these are the three of the things, among others, that really set it apart that I'll highlight for now. That article, if you want, is here. I'll also put this up at the end so that you'll have the ability to go take a look at this at that point. But the point is, it's a nice little oh, hey, this is actually how people differentiate these concepts. What I want you to take away, though, is that these are, wait for it, phones, good. All right, these are tools. Each of these interactions has a pro, cons, and a utility or an indication. So if you have that mindset, then you're able to understand what is the indication that I need right now? So let's go look at what a coaching was and how it can fulfill certain indications. I like this phrase. I stole this from one of my courses I was in once, but the coach sees the coachee, you, the person showing up, as the world's foremost, renowned, esteemed expert in your life. I don't know better about you, and I never will. You do. And helping you see that, or at least making it more clear to yourself, gets to the point of, I'm never gonna tell you what to do. You're going to be able to put this together. We're gonna help you identify and discover what those things are, but it comes from within. I'm only gonna communicate, or mostly through questions. I'm going to try and prompt you to put in content. And this is really tough, by the way, in the doctor realm, because boy, do we love to diagnose. And this was my major challenge as I got into this realm, was your brain just snaps into, there's a right answer, and I'm hearing things, and here's what I think it is. Not that at all. We don't want to do that. I want to listen. I don't want to tell you opinions. I want to keep forward. I don't care about the past, or at least minimally so. I want to work on what will we do from here going forward, because I can't do anything about that direction. I can do something, or help you do something about that direction. Then it gets into the internal accountability. I want you to have accountability to yourself and to whomever else matters in your life. As I said, there's no shared content expertise required. So even if you're thinking of pursuing a coach, they do not have to be a physician. It may be helpful. They may have an understanding that can some way be a benefit, but it's not required. And fundamentally, I want you to be more self-aware. I want you to have perspective built from the experience, and then have some kind of takeaway skill, understanding, something you've learned from that experience. So with that, what are the uses? What can this help you? How can you take away from this, develop a plan? So are you trying to get past a career setback or a failure? Is there a specific skill? Are you finding yourself stuck in rooms talking to patients longer than you want? Is your satisfaction scores not high enough? Etc. Any of these are amenable to this, because there's no right answer to dealing with any of those. Are you burned out? I will at least say in the medical literature, this is the most reliable finding of the value of coaching, particularly emotional exhaustion. So it is shown repeatedly to improve in the burnout domain. But even more than that, I want to clarify. Are you trying to think of how to exit? What is your retirement plan? Right? Nobody gives you a roadmap for that one. How do you off-ramp from what your career may be? How do you change or pivot careers? I was a program director for 4 years and an APD for 6 years. I don't want to do any of that anymore. And now I'm on a different career trajectory because of that. And it is an identity-changing experience, and that can be very disconcerting, I'll say. Are you about to be a new leader, and you want to hit the ground running, and you have all these great ideas? Which is the one that I should really be pursuing? You have conflict with someone? You just keep butting heads and have to find a way to work with them, particularly if they are a subordinate under you and you need them to be able to work, to be able to make your work successful. Incredibly useful indication for coaching. But fundamentally, any time that you're stuck, that challenge, that problem, or stuck, when you feel that and there isn't someone you can go to and say, oh, I need to ask someone, how do I do this? That's a dead giveaway that you're probably ready, or at least in the domain of a coach could be helpful. So another article, this one, self-promotion, but you can open here. It will guide you through, for clinician educators, is a coach what I need? Because for honestly, a lot of people, and people I've coached, it's not always what they actually need. Are you prepared? Are you in the right mind space? Do you have the time? Are you ready to do the work? Thinking of that person you want to quit drinking or quit smoking, yeah, they could be wish casting they want to quit, but are they ready to do the actions of quitting? For you, are you ready to do the actions of change? Where can you find them? This is actually a little harder than it sounds in medicine, because it's a fairly newer, earlier adoption concept here. And then how do you make the most of it? And in the article, we have this a walkway through here of how do you become more aware, set a goal, then direct your plan towards that goal, assess myself, and then debrief. A classic assessment circle. And then these questions can help you figure it out. And don't worry about what they are now. You can get them straight out of the article. But the point is, these are the kinds of things that coaches are going to ask you. Why does it matter to be a clinician educator? Right? When was the last time you actually asked yourself that? Why does it matter what I do? Right? What makes me different? What makes me fulfilled? These aren't exactly questions that are traditionally asked in a lot of mentorship discussions, and if they are, it's probably a really good mentor, to be fair. So with that, I will end on this reiterating a hypothesis. When you're in mid-career, you are differentiated from the nameless, faceless physician that you had become in a traditional identity. You now have unique aspects. A lot of your home, your personal, your intrinsic values all come together. And now they are what will dictate a lot of your choices, and also be the criterion by which you determine happiness or success, rather than the grade or the position, the job. That makes a coach an ideal person to be able to help you. And while there are many other development interactions that you can pursue, and they are still useful, I think in this unique environment, this is one of the best uses for you. So with that, I'll leave you. This is, for those of you who are like, what the hell is this coaching thing? I thought I had it in Little League. What is this? Then you can go to the ICF. It's one of the governing bodies. That's one. The Mark Dante and Simpson article is here. This is the one that I had written with Elaine and Schulte and Linda Love about clinician educators. And then honestly, for those of you who are just like, I like some of these ideas, I like the shaping, there's a philosophy of coach-like skills to use when you're not necessarily a fully trained coach. And Robert Hicks wrote this book specifically for people in medicine. I think it is excellent. I cannot more strongly recommend a book to at least make you rethink what your leadership style is and how do you interface with people to empower them rather than command and control, dictate to them what they should be doing. All right, and with that, I end, and thank you for all coming. It is 10:21. I presume is there a 10:30? Okay. I'm happy to take any questions. If not, by all means, please enjoy. I'm sure many people have flights to be able to get to, so I don't want to hold up in any way. All right, thank you guys.